everybody. I'm Bishop.
And I'm Dr. Steph.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Our Life, Our Journey,
Our Truth.
And we are always excited to have you every single week on our YouTube page. And we thank all of you so much for supporting us, letting us know that this is blessing your life. We appreciate you so much. We do not take it for granted. And trust me when I tell you, we are excited to have you connected on today. Now, I want to make sure that you continue to comment because we read those comments. And so make sure you like and you comment.
And you share and subscribe.
Absolutely, because we want you to share with folks that we believe will be a blessing to them. And make sure you subscribe, get all the notifications and things like that because we want to stay connected. And speaking of connection, make sure you follow Dr. Steph. Dr. Steph Walker on Instagram. Follow me at Joseph Walker 3 and go to our website, josephwalker3.org, to get our books and get our merch. We got great t-shirts and sweatshirts and all that good stuff out there. It'll bless your life. We appreciate you so much. Customize it, all that. Do it. It'll bless you. We're thankful to God for all of you who join us every single week. So many people tell us they watch us and it blesses us to know that you're being blessed. Thank you. So today we got a good one to talk about because I believe everybody has experienced hurt in a relationship. And the real question is, when is the appropriate time to move on? And we want to talk about how to heal first before you do that.
How important it is.
And I think it's out of the gate, it's important to understand that hurt does not happen in a silo, that you are not the only one who's ever experienced it. And if you've ever had betrayal or you've ever had, some kind of just horrific thing happen in a relationship that tore your heart to pieces, you're not the only one that's experienced that. Any relationships can subject you to that because you're at your most vulnerable place when you trust. And so I think it's important to say at the beginning that you're not the only one that's been hurt, right? And the question now is once you have been hurt, I think that there is a lesson in every experience. Never go through a situation and don't get the lesson God wants you to get out of it.
That's important.
Because that's a part of the healing process, right?
That was a point, I think, frequently.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when we move too quickly from one situation from the next without actually learning the lesson, then what happens? You end up repeating it. And so it's so important to take a step back, take some time to yourself. And it's okay to vent and be upset about whatever happened, but don't sit there. Don't live in that space. Make sure you take a step back and figure out what can you own from the situation, right? Did you allow yourself to be put in that predicament? Did you allow yourself to sit in that situation? Did you see signs and just ignore them, or what have you? Or did you, or maybe it was none of the above, but what did you learn? Like, it's so key and critical to figure out, okay, Lord, you allowed me to go through this situation. Clearly, it was to learn something that I'm going to need, some tool or some wisdom that I'm going to need for the future. So what is that before I move on?
Yeah, and I think that when you come to that place of realization, the self-realization is so important. Like examining maybe what things I could have contributed to this, if any, then deciding what will be my plan for healing. Because we often say that it is never a sprint. It's a marathon. And if you're submitting yourself to this process of being made whole prior to moving on to a relationship, then you got to settle yourself. You got to really settle yourself because you have to make certain you're not just, your eyes aren't big because you see another relationship opportunity and you think that this is one of the mistakes, right? This one's going to help me get over this one. You ever live that?
That's common.
We all have, right? This is going to help me move on, or that's going to help me move on. When in fact, it's a disservice to the person that you're supposedly dating.
And to yourself, more importantly. I mean, not to say that the other person doesn't matter, but to yourself, it's a disservice to yourself.
So I think that when you talk about this process of what it looks like, what does it look like to really heal before I move on? I think I'll throw out some things. I think one is you've got to come to a place of contentment.
What does that mean?
Well, the Bible says godliness with contentment is of great gain. That there's a moment when you have to say, okay, God, I'm in a season in my life. I cannot live comparatively about what other people are doing. If I'm going to be the bridesmaids or the groomsmen for the next year or so, that's fine. I'm content in the season of aloneness so that I can heal. For example, when there's a indicator on an automobile suggesting that there is something wrong. Something has gone awry.
Mm-hmm.
It's never fixed in drive.
You have to pull over. You have to pause. You have to stop. You have to get jacked up.
You see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to go and pause, stop, get it jacked up, let somebody look under the hood, look under the car to fix it. And so sometimes it's okay to park and be okay saying, even if other people are living their best lives, whatever, before I move on, I need to work on me.
Well, I think it's a couple of things, right? Like you don't want to do it because you need to work on you, but you also want to do it so that you don't self-sabotage, because what we frequently will end up doing is taking that baggage from the previous relationship into the next relationship, even though we don't think or realize that we're doing it.
Yeah.
And so if we haven't healed from the trauma or the pain of the previous relationship, when this person looks at you the same way the other person did, then your senses are heightened and now you're in panic mode, like flight or flight mode, because you're thinking, oh, you're just like that other person, when they were just looking at you as opposed to doing something shady, right? Or if they say something that's a trigger, well, they could mean it in a completely different way than what you've experienced it. But based on your last trauma situation, you're attributing their words to your previous situation, and the two have nothing to do with each other. It's like you will end up punishing this person because of the residue from your previous relationship, and it's not fair to them, and it's not fair to you. And worst of all, let me just say, is that this could actually be the right person for you, but the timing is bad because you jumped the gun.
That's right.
Right? And so here you are jeopardizing a healthy relationship that could actually be fruitful for you if you would allow yourself to heal before you walk in it.
How do you know when it's time, though? Like, how do you know when you have truly healed? How do you know, when this thing is in a place where I've reached wholeness and I'm ready to move on? Are there indicators you think that people have to say, now I'm ready? Is it because I think
sometimes when you are able to talk about the situation without being overly emotional, from crying to being angry to, having conversations with your closest friends. When something first happens and you have your inner circle, sometimes your friends are tolerant enough to allow you to keep talking about it over and over and over again. When you get to a point where it's not even necessary for you to bring it up, where you get to the point where if someone brings up that person's name or if you see them, you don't have this visceral response, then I think it's safe to move on, because that means that you have actually healed on the inside, and that you've healed on the inside.
Yeah, I've seen people like, they're not even, pardon me, they're not even going to name their children the name of the person that hurt them.
Well, I wouldn't do that either. So
well, I mean, in terms of like,
I wouldn't do that either.
Well, I mean, like even dating a person, like
I wouldn't do that either. I mean,
so if John hurt you, 15 years ago, and you meet John now, you're not gonna date John?
Probably not.
Oh, that's a shame. You need therapy. I'm just kidding.
No, but I think that there are certain triggers in life. It's just like. It's not even dealing with relationship. You think about that kid at school, you're in your 30s or 40s or late 20s, and there was a kid at school when you were 5 and they teased you or they were mean or they had issues or problems. You're not going to name your kid after that person. And this is just the human brain and how the human brain connects your experiences, positive or negative, with these internal triggers. It's just not going to happen. I don't think it has to always do with relationships per se. I think it's just the way that our brain works.
And that's good too, because it's not just about relationships, it's about job situations, it's about whatever's hurt you. How do you move on to that next season of your life and be okay without romanticizing what occurred, going into this place saying, well, they did me this. And a lot of people leave places the wrong way.
Yeah, well, right? They leave, they jump ship, and then they run to another location, whether it's another job, another relationship, just another city, and all they're doing is taking that same habits and the same issues and the same problems and the same emotions and just transplanting them to a different location.
Yep.
Same story, different book. is not going to work, right? You have to take a step back and figure out. And I think part of it is if you don't face it, you can't fix it. So part of it is ownership. And even let's say, for example, this person did you wrong. You have to own your response.
That's it.
You have to own your presence in the relationship. You have to own your willingness to put up with whatever it was to lead you to that point of explosion or implosion in that relationship. You have to own it. Because until you own it, you will never heal. It will never be fixed, right? You may think that you've healed, but then all you're doing is taking those same habits, that same information, that same knowledge or lack thereof into the next situation. And until you embrace it, feel those emotions, okay, that didn't feel good, this is what it was, and really be prayerful about, okay, Lord, I don't understand. Why me? What the heck happened? Give me the spirit of discernment. Show me, teach me, tell me what I need to learn in this season, because I really don't want to repeat this time and time again.
I think that sometimes people, when we go into any kind of job situation or relationship, and we go into it without expectations, and then once we're disappointed, right? You're disappointed, right? Then the question is, how do you effectively pivot without leaving a trail
of chaos and destruction in your wake?
And departure darts.
That's a sign of maturity, right? Because when people feel like they need to depart a situation and they feel like they have to sabotage or say negative things about, or throw other people under the bus on their way out, that's a lack of maturity, right? Like I have always been taught, when it's time to leave, you leave on a high. You never burn bridges. You go above and beyond to finish with flying colors, so that they will always say on your way out the door, thank you for your service. If you ever want to come back, you're more than welcome to. If you need a letter of recommendation, I'm more than willing to write it for you, whatever the case may be, right? Because you never know what life circumstances will be. You never know if you're going to need them. You never know what your next job situation or your next relationship will be, how they're connected to the last place or situation that you left. When you leave collateral damage and you do it on purpose, one, that's just not, there's no God in that, right? When you're doing it on purpose. And then like what goes around comes around. Like it always comes back to bite you on the butt. It always comes back to bite you, no matter what, right? And so I was always taught, finish strong, go above and beyond, make sure that you dot your I's, you cross your T's, so that when you're leaving, people are sorry to see you go.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And I think as you hear this, I think it's important, like, for example, everyone, I know I've experienced hurt, you've experienced hurt, and I think when you've done it and you own it and you're self-reflective and you look at your life and say, what did I contribute to it? Here's the deal. You cannot be a permanent victim. You have to get to a place where you walk in victory. And walking in victory means I'm not going to allow the residue of the past to constantly haunt me in relationships or otherwise, right?
Well, then also too, so there's two other situations. So let's say you have left one relationship because it just didn't work, right? And you are moving to, another city, another place, like whatever. And then you immediately get into another situation or relationship simply because you don't want to be by yourself. Well, that's not healthy either, right? Like part of it is, giving yourself the space and the grace to be where you're supposed to be for the reason that you're supposed to be there. If God is transitioning you to a new city, it's not always for a relationship right away. If God is transitioning you to a new job, it's not always for the honey that's sitting at the front desk. If God is transitioning you to a new situation, allow the main thing to be the main thing, right? It doesn't always have to be about a relationship, right? And then on the flip side, well, something completely different, I think, but still along this same sort of conversation, is death and dying.
All right.
Tragedy. Frequently, when we experience tragedy in our lives, we become clingy. Let's say you're in a relationship and the relationship is on the rocks and you're about to break up. Well, frequently, if there's a trauma or tragedy in our life during that season, we latch on to that thing that we know is not healthy simply because we don't want to be alone.
That's so good. That's so good.
Or we enter a relationship or open a door that God has already closed simply because we don't want to be alone. So you have to be mindful of how the devil works and uses your pain, uses your vulnerabilities to get into your life, to sabotage what God has in store for you. Because a lot of things can happen in these relationships that you're not supposed to necessarily be in, right? Good, bad, and other. And you just have to be really mindful. I would urge you that if you're going through trauma, if you just recently experienced trauma, tragedy, death, dying, anything, stay away from relationships. Take a break. People who love you will understand, and those who don't won't, so it doesn't even matter, right? And so take a step back, take time for yourself to heal from that kind of trauma before you move into other relationships, because it's never or rarely ever fruitful, let me say.
You know, one of the things that I know for a fact is that the healing is a journey. And it's a process by which you have to walk through and be intentional about getting what you need without having the expectations of others levied upon you. And before you can truly move on in a relationship or in a business arrangement or in a career, it's important that you tie all the buttons together and say, now I clearly understand why this happened. I put this in a place and now I can move on and look, you know, at this new situation
with
clarity.
And like positive expectations and like without the negative baggage, assumptions, like residue or what have you from your previous situation.
You know, and add to that, I think it's important. I think even when you look at the diversity of things that could happen in your life, right? All of those things need to have closure.
Yeah, that's good. That's what it is. It's closure.
It's closure. You have to have closure before you go forward. Without closure, then you don't walk into that situation.
And closure is not always waiting for this person to apologize.
Oh, God. Say that for the people in the back.
Closure is not always waiting for this person to apologize, because 9 times out of 10, there will be no apology. There will be no acknowledgement. There will be no ownership of the situation. Closure is about you.
That's right.
It's about you getting to yourself, being able to say, this is what happened. I own my part. Moving right along, Lord. What do I need to learn? I'm wiser. I'm better. I'm stronger for it. Now, open whatever door you want me to open for me to walk through, Lord. I'm ready, right? And moving right along. It's not waiting on the actions of other people. That is not closure.
No.
That is a recipe for disaster and sadness and drama and trauma. Moving right along.
You know, Paul says in Philippians, forgetting those things which are behind me, and I now reach to those things which are ahead of me. I press toward the mark of the prize of the high calling in Christ Jesus. Forgetting those things are behind me, are not so much that I lost all memory of what happened. It means that I no longer give those things influence over my life to govern my future decisions.
Or space in your heart.
In my heart to taint me, that I'm unable to give a new opportunity, a new person, a clear chance.
You're not going to let it live rent-free.
You will not live rent-free in my mind, in my emotions, in my heart. And that's so true. And so a part of that is forgetting, Paul says, but reaching to those things which are ahead. That's the energy of intentionality, that I'm locked in on where I'm going and not so much a prisoner of where I've been. And once you heal and you come to a place of wholeness, then you're able to do that. You're able to go forward and you're able to say, I will not be penalized because of my past. But I'm in a place now I can clearly see a path forward that's to the glory of God. I think ultimately, I think that's what it is, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Jesus deals with people like that. And when he heals them, he says, I make you whole. And the woman with the issue of blood was coming for healing, but she got wholeness because the residue of what she had been dealing with would have carried over into her new season. God just has a way of doing that. And you're watching this, and maybe God is saying, I'm trying to completely heal you and make you whole so you're not that bitter, resentful person, very pensive and, very judgmental, and you're walking around with all these insecurities because of what occurred in your life. God's just trying to fix all that now. Because your future looks so bright. There's so many amazing things that God wants to do, but he can't do it unless you submit yourself to the process of wholeness. Jesus asked the man one day, do you want to be made whole? Do you want to be made whole? Do you want to get past this? Do you want to let this go? Because you don't want to be a person that's just, romanticizing the idea of being a victim of what happened and always bringing it up and always talking about
they did me wrong.
We're tired of hearing it, y'all. You got to get to a place that, Lord, deal with this so I can live my best life. And you can live your best. There's life after heartache. That's life after breakup. That's life. I can't live with it. Trust me, you can.
You will breathe again.
You will breathe.
Yes.
I like that. You will breathe again. I think that's the beautiful part of this. So we hope this episode has helped you. I really do. And I think that it's such an important and compelling topic because there's so many people who experience very deep pain. Some of you right now are experiencing acute trauma and pain. You're living it out right now, and you're thinking, well, that's fine. I'll just open my spirit up to something else. And you don't realize you're just setting yourself up for a cycle.
And let's say that you are in a relationship and you are facing complications in that relationship and you're recognizing that it's because of what's happened to you in the past. It's okay to be honest and open and transparent and if the relationship is worth it, and let that person in to let them know what you've experienced and the why behind the what, so that they can understand that it's not them, that it's you that needs to continue your healing process. That is a healthy alternative from walking away from this relationship that could possibly be a blessing. Obviously, if it's not for you, it's not for you. But if you think that it is, just being open and honest about your past and your history and your need to heal and asking for the space and grace to be able to do so, I think is important.
Space and grace. How about it? Well, we hope you've been blessed by this episode. I tell you, this is one we want to hear from you. Make sure you comment. Let us know your thoughts, how we can help you. We appreciate that. Make sure you follow Dr. Steph. Make sure you follow me. Make sure you go to our website, josephwalker3.org. There is life after heartbreak, y'all. And even though you've been hurt, you can heal and make sure you heal before you move on. I'm Bishop.
And I'm Dr. Steph.
Thank you for tuning in. Till next time. Peace out.